So, this program is made possible through federal funds provided by the Institute of Museum and Library Services as administered by the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, and we thank them very much for the grant that has made this programming possible. My name is Vicki Turcott. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Chelmsford Library, and I'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's program on death and dying entitled Nobody Gets Out of Here Alive with Lucia Camara. And she is from the Nashoba Nursing Services and Hospice in Shirley, Mass. And I hope I got that right. Please welcome Lucia.
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone this evening?
Well, thanks.
Good. One of the things that I like to do is kind of tell you just a little bit about me, so you don't think I'm just some crazy old lady walking in off of the street and talking at you, so to speak. I have been involved with hospice. My work has been the bereavement and the spiritual care provider for hospices. One of the things that has come to mind recently is how things have changed over the 40 years that I've done this. And part of the change is that we have so many more choices now where we can actually decide what it is and how it is that we want to be cared for, as well as how we want to die. And today's presentation or today's talk is going to be exactly that. One of the ways I like to start is by asking everyone, are you ready for your dying process? Are you ready for your death?
Again, feel free to chime in if you want to speak or type in the chat, and I will be glad to share the question. But it's okay if you don't want to.
Absolutely. But why I like asking that question is because it's not something we think about. It's not something we talk about. Our society, our culture is too focused on that we don't grow old, we're going to live forever, and we want to be as young as we possibly can as our body is aging. So there's no room there to really give any thought to dying. And yet we're all going to die. We are not getting out of this alive. That doesn't mean that we have to be morbid about it. No, but what we do need to do is plan for it. I'm going to share with you a story, and actually it's a true story. Family members have allowed me to share this story, so I'm not speaking out of turn nor divulging anything that is confidential or private. But it's a good story because there's something we can all learn from it. There was this elderly couple. And when I say elderly, I'm talking about that they were only in their 70s. So they're not that old, but they're elderly, according to our society. So there was this couple, very content, very happy, living very merrily, so to speak, in their own way, enjoying their time as they're aging. They had a couple of adult kids that didn't live too far, so they were in and out. They had grandkids that were also in and out. So their life was pretty full, pretty normal, nothing extraordinary, although they thought it was pretty extraordinary because they were enjoying their life. Unfortunately, the husband fell ill. And yes, went to the doctor, did all of this, and it was not COVID. It ended up being cancer. So when they were told that, okay, it was cancer and it looks like it's pretty aggressive, so we can try treatment. And this medical professional was very upfront, which I am always grateful for. By that, I mean, he made very clear to this gentleman that we can try treatment, but it's not going to change anything. It may give you more time, but the time that you're going to get may also be dealing with some of the side effects of the treatment. So I leave it to you if you want to take the treatment Or if you just want to live the rest of your days, and you may have a few of them, even though it's aggressive, but you won't have any side effects, as best you can, and putting things in place. Not too many doctors do that. Most conversations are, hey, 30% of people survive when they take this treatment. Or, oh, let's try this new program. Or let's try some research, see what we can do. And that's all fine and well if the individual wants that. But they don't share all the information. They don't share that there are 70% that die. They never talk about the percentage that dies. They only speak to you about the percentage that the treatment helps. Well, unfortunately, so the couple decided that he was just going to come home and forego treatment because he didn't do well with treatment. Well, unfortunately, he came home, but there was no healthcare proxy in place. There was no MOLST form in place. There was no real, how do we call this? Referral from the doctor to the office. So before anything could actually be put in place, unfortunately, the gentleman died. The coroner, the medical examiner, had to come to the house because he wasn't on any hospice care. He wasn't on any home care. So any death at home is considered a suspicious death. His wife couldn't go anywhere near him, not to comfort him, not to comfort herself. They wouldn't allow that. All because they didn't have what they needed in place. So 4 hours later, once the police officers kept everybody away from the gentleman who had died, once the medical examiner came and said, oh yeah, okay, it's fine, then 4 hours later was when she was able to go and be with her husband's body. So that's not a very happy ending to a very wonderful life that they had, and simply because things weren't in place. And that's part of what you're going to hear me say and talk to you about today. All right, please feel free to ask questions, stop me at any point. I'm seeing there are some things on the chat. Okay, so if I get distracted, bear with me. But it's important because the dying process, every human being has control over if they have everything in place. Otherwise,
Whoops. I was gonna say, let me share the comment. My hubby died on the front walk, and because he died at home, he laid on the walk for 2 hours until he was released by the medical examiner and the state police. We were married for 60 years. And, it was within a year, so she knows how quick it can happen in a moment. She misses him and looks forward to being with him again, but has mixed thoughts as she has pets to care for to their end. It's difficult.
Absolutely difficult. In regards to, there's another story, I mean, another experience really about, and maybe things were in place. Maybe you did have healthcare proxies, a MOLST form, all of that in place. But if the death is at home and not deemed that it is a illness, a life-taking illness, that yes, there are a few more components that come into play, and it doesn't make it easy, not at all. So one of the first things I would like to really share with all of you is please be sure that you have a healthcare proxy, that you have someone that will be able to make decisions for you around your healthcare should you not be able to do that for yourself. Your doctor can decide when the healthcare proxy comes into play. So it's not that you lose your autonomy. It's not that you don't have decisions that you can make. It's only if you are unable to make those decisions. If you are unable to communicate, that's an important piece. So please make sure that that's in place, at least for yourself. And if you have a spouse, for them as well, so that again, you can make decisions, you can make all of the plans that you need to make and that you and your loved one want to make or would like to see made. Unfortunately, when it is a death at home, and if there is nothing, it was unexpected death at home, there really isn't much that you can do or that the healthcare proxy will serve. So that I do need to state. The MOLTS form, and the MOLTS form is a pink sheet that your doctor, okay, is able to fill out. And this is a little bit more, it's two-sided, and it's a little bit more than what some folks in the past have done, which is a do not resuscitate order. This goes into more detail, and for some people it's important. So next time you're at your doctor's office, please inquire with them about the MOLST, M-O-L-S-T form. I have shared with Vicki that I am happy to send her some literature so that she may have it and she can make arrangements to get it to you. The MOLST form will really go into how do you want to be taken care of? If you are dying and you are not able to speak or share verbally what it is you want, the MOLST form will have that. In many ways, the MOLST form is very similar to, and some of you may have heard, the 5 wishes. And the 5 wishes is also a wonderful document, which again, Vicki will get some of these, that really allow you to spell out. So what do we mean when we say really allows you to spell out how you want your dying process to be? What it means is it actually will ask, and this is food for thought, it will actually ask you, how do you want to be cared for while you're dying? Once you begin to lose your independence, once your body is too weak or frail to do what it has always done, how do you want it to be cared for? By whom do you want it to be cared for? Do you want to have meals no matter what? Meaning, do you want to be constantly fed or offered food? Do you want to constantly be offered a drink? What kind of drink would you like? If you like 4 o'clock cocktails, do you still want to have 4 o'clock cocktails? If you enjoy wine with a meal, would you still like to have wine with your meal? Once you're bedridden, do you want to wear your regular street clothes, or is a Johnny acceptable, or some kind of shift that will allow your care to be done appropriately? And how do you want that care done? Do you want it to be done by a female, by a male? How, who, when? These are all important points that unless you speak of them or write them down, make them known, they're just going to be taken for granted. When you are a hospice patient, and again, doesn't matter the hospice, so I'm not speaking just of Nashoba, all hospices are required to ask how the patient would like to be taken care of. And they will actually, if you don't have the paperwork in place, the social worker will actually help you put that in place. And maybe even the spiritual care provider will help you do that as well. They absolutely will ask that you get a MOLST form from your doctor, because that's important. And they will then ask those questions about, how do you want to be cared for? When you're independent, even though you're on hospice, you can be on hospice and still be up and around and enjoying your life, living it and dealing with whatever it is that's going to cause your life to be shortened. Or you can actually be bedridden. You can be incapacitated. Ideally, You may want to consider that if a doctor says to you that you don't have much more treatment, that you're going to, at that point, consider hospice or palliative care, because then you can get what you need in medical care, pharmaceuticals, and physical care so that you can stay at home and be cared for the way you'd like. I don't know if you heard or have caught on, but the theme to the conversation we've been having is, how do you want to die? How do you want to be cared for? That's important. Don't leave it up to whoever, because they may not know what you would prefer or not prefer. So these are important points, okay? Very important points. You also want to talk about the simple things. We talked about just now the real big things, how you're going to be cared for, because that's important. And none of us are accustomed to allowing someone else to take care of us. None of us. And none of us want to leave our home. None of us. That's just part of our culture, part of our society. We've become so independent that no, we can do it all on our own. Well, unfortunately, there may come a time that you won't be able to do it all on your own. So it's good to really look at, how do you want to be cared for? When you cannot care for yourself, how do you want to be cared for? How do you want your medicine administered? Do you want to be in a little pain because you want to be focused? Or do you want to not be in any pain and you're okay if you're a little slumbery and sleepy? These are important points too, as well as, where do you want to be? I know it sounds silly, but let's say you need a hospital bed and they're going to bring a hospital bed into your home. Where do you want the hospital bed? Do you want it in your bedroom, which might be away from everything? Or would you like it in the living room, where everything happens and you can see the comings and goings? What do you like in background? Do you want to make sure that you can see Jeopardy or any other game show you really enjoy? So you want to be sure the television's not too far? Or perhaps you're one who loves to listen to music. Or maybe you love to read, and now your eyesight isn't allowing you to read. Consider whose voice you enjoy listening to, and then perhaps they can read to you. That's also quality time. Big, important quality time. One of the things I hear a lot from family members of those who are dying basically is that they wish their loved one would have let them do more for them. That's sad, because there's no way that that family member is going to get any time back or be able to do anything more for the loved one who has died or will die. And the loved one who is dying, normally, oh, I don't want to burden them. I don't want to do this. I don't want to. Well, I'm going to offer another way of looking at it. Remember, this is something that has been what I have done for well over 40 years. So it's not that I am that smart. I'm not. But I've witnessed a lot. I've learned from others, come to understand some wisdom that is good to pass on to others who may be in the same situation as some of those that I've served. And the dying, when they become too independent and don't want to allow a loved one, a family member, or even someone that comes in to help, they're depriving them, all of them, of a precious gift. What's the gift, you might ask? Well, If you're dying, you may be depriving your son, your daughter, your mate, your spouse, your significant other, your neighbor, your friend, of being able to give you all that they can give you. And that is caring for you, feeding you, reading to you, sitting with you, helping you change if you need to change. These are all very important things. And our society and culture has not allowed us to come to an acceptance of, yeah, we're not going to live forever. No, we are going to need help. We're not going to be independent forever. That it's okay to accept help. That it's okay to age. I wouldn't give up my white hair for anything in the world. Couple of reasons. Every hair on that head of mine is a worry about something,
Yeah.
and a nice long-lived life. And the wrinkles on my forehead, well, wouldn't give those up either. Worrying about all those that I love, trying to determine how to help and serve those that may benefit from something that I know, that's important. So it's good for us to claim who we are. You want to be young forever? Wonderful. Be young forever in your heart, in what you can do. If you can sing and you have a singing voice, then sing like you are as young as you want to be. If you can walk, then walk as well as you can and as young as you want to be. But it's important to understand that we are going to come to a point or a place, known or unknown, like, okay, what was shared with us from Joan, that all of a sudden things can end tomorrow. So things end tomorrow for you. Have you said, done, shared everything you wanted to with those people that are important to you? That's something to think about now, not when you're dealing with a major illness, not when you're dealing with so much that you have to now do. Now's the time to realize that, yeah, okay, I'm not making it out of here alive. None of us are. But we can make a lot of what we have in time. Are there any questions? Is there anything that I could address a little bit more?
Lucia, I had a question. Could you tell us a little more about the 5 wishes?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The 5 wishes can become something. See, I'm not sure. I have a lot of folks. I have a lot of folks who have the 5 wishes, that they have done them. They had filled them out and have done them. And I'm talking about years ago, because their spouse died and they wanted to be sure they, had things in place. The Moltz form is more of a medical piece. So the Moltz form is going to address all the medical treatment or non-treatment, all that you want done for you and to you medically. The 5 wishes actually go into, and I can, being very specific. For example, wish number 1 is the person I want to make healthcare decisions for me when I can't make them for myself. That's a healthcare proxy. Okay, the 5 wishes gives you that opportunity where you can actually fill that out, but you don't need the 5 wishes to come to have a healthcare proxy or to determine who your healthcare proxy is. But it does go into it, and it's important. The joke around my home is that my healthcare proxy is my spouse and my oldest daughter. Reason being, my oldest daughter will make sure my spouse gets rid of my ashes. And it is just a joke, but it's an important piece. It's all right. So who do you want as a healthcare proxy that truly is going to be able to follow all of your wishes? All right. Even to the extent if you choose to be cremated, or you choose you don't want to wake, or you choose you don't want a funeral, whatever that is, that they will follow through with that. That's also part of it. Okay, so be thoughtful about that and have a conversation. Please, please, please don't just name somebody as a healthcare proxy. You can't anyway, they have to sign, but still give it good thought. Okay, so that would be like your first wish. Your second wish would be my wish for the kind of medical treatment I want or I don't want. And that's important. Why that's important is family members are going to want to make sure that the patient is eating and drinking and not missing any meals and going to the bathroom and doing all of that. Unfortunately, at different stages, the body starts to change and may not need 3 meals a day, may not need, fluids being pumped into their body constantly, because it can cause more of a problem, as can offering food when they're really not hungry and their body is shutting down. Okay, so that too is important, is who is going to make those decisions, who is going to be able to truly understand, and having those decisions written out, having your wishes on how. You know, for me, when my time comes, again, not that I want to make it all about me, but since there are no questions, I'm using me as the example. When my time comes and I can't eat much, get rid of anything that has protein and just bring me dessert. I'll be happy with that. Strawberry shortcake is one of my favorite. So is in Boston cream pie. You can bring me all the donuts and muffins you want. Okay. Now that might sound silly, but the reality is once we're dying and our body is shutting down, what do you want to eat? You're not going to have much energy to eat. Your body's not going to be able to take in much. So what do you want? For me, dessert. Now, I had a patient, loved this person to death, had a patient, and because of their view of life, I learned a lot from them, had a patient that had 4 o'clock cocktails since they were 18. Well, they're now 74. Why should they give up their 4 o'clock cocktail? So family was a little concerned, saying, well, we don't know. And it's like, no, if they're able to swallow, and that is what they would like, that is their routine, why take it away? Why take it away? On the other hand, had a smoker, smoked since they were 14. Tried to give up, never could give up, never. Now the family's going a little crazy. Well, you know, you can't really smoke in the house and, you know, on and on and on. It's like, okay, so find a safe place for them to smoke and let them smoke. Why not? It's not going to change anything at this point. Okay, so again, what kind of medical treatment do you want or don't want? That's important as well, because again, if you may decide that, well, you know what, when I start showing pain, just please give me some pain medicine so I'm comfortable. I'm okay if I'm sleepy. I'm okay if I'm drowsy. Or no, I don't want to be too drowsy, so give me pain medicine, but do it so that, you know, I can still interact and I can still talk. If I'm having a hard time breathing, if there's medicine that would help that. And folks, here's a news flash. Morphine, Roxanol is not what it's made out to be, meaning morphine and Roxanol can open up your airwaves, and what you take to open up your airwaves
will take you out.
No, it won't take you out. It won't. You have to take quite a bit of it before it will make any real impact on your life. And that's the misinformation around morphine and Roxanol. yes, it is true that as a patient is dying and as they're having more difficulty taking in a breath, we give them more morphine or we give them more Roxanol. But that's not what's killing them. What's killing them is whatever the ailment is, whatever the disease is. The morphine and the Roxanol is just helping them to open the airwaves and to relax. I know it's hard because, all the time there is this, but we started giving them that and then they died. They were going to die. It wasn't that we enhanced it. Legally, we can't do that. Okay, and you need to understand that. Legally, in the state of Massachusetts, at least, we can't do that. We can't aid a patient to die, even when they're begging us, and they do beg. And that's the other point. With medical treatment, one of the hardest things for anyone who's coming in from the outside to take care of patients is to witness a patient in pain, struggling to take a breath, and the family does not want to give the medicine because they have their fears, they have their concerns. Well, since you're not families that I am serving, then I am going to say, when you do that, you are actually torturing your loved one. You are actually making them suffer more. Why do you want to do that? Think about that for a minute. If they're in pain, if you're in pain, if you're not able to breathe, and you knew that there was some medicine you could take to help, but it's not being given to you, what would you call it? Please give that thought. It's hard. All we can do as individuals that come in is suggest, is tell you what the doctors are telling, but it's ultimately going to be the choice of whomever is taking care of you. Make known to them what you want. Cheryl?
Like I had mentioned earlier, my husband passed away from liver cancer 2 years ago, and it was very difficult because, I have a medical background, and my sister-in-law who came to help take care of him was a nurse for 40 years. And so when we had to, make the decision of, administering certain medicines, you had to gravel with, I am not the family member now, I am the caregiver and what's best for him. And that was truly a difficult thing to do. And I didn't mean to say that the morphine take you out, but it relaxes your body so much. And, in that breathing process that it calms you down and, that
And you can die,
Yeah.
yes. Yes,
So,
but the other side to that, and I think this is what I want to offer. I guess I'd like to ask you, was it comfortable watching him suffer? Was it
no,
comfortable?
it was not. No, it was not. It was not at all.
And I think that's what we have to wrangle with ourselves. It's what is it that we're going to do and how are we going to do it? And again, what's also important is that each one of us that is participating in this today can make those decisions and make them known to those who are going to take care of us. So if indeed we don't want to take any medicine, then okay, fine. But it needs to be known.
Right.
At what point do we intercede? And now is when we make those decisions. It's while we're capable of really thinking about it, of really understanding what the choices are and how those choices are going to affect us.
Right.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I know it's difficult, and I know, I do know I've had my own fair share of loved ones dying and watching them die and trying to care for them. So I understand that difficulty. I promise you I do. And I know it's hard, but only we can determine what's best for, the person we're taking care of. And even that relaxing, okay? What people sometimes don't realize is when the human body is in pain or great discomfort, that sometimes does not let them die.
Yeah. Right.
True?
Yep.
Because they're just so,
So tense and so
yeah,
wound up and
uncomfortable.
stressing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, it's we need to wrestle with, we need to think about. When I say wrestle, I'm really saying think about. We need to think about, like, okay, what is it we want? How do
At
we
that
want
point,
it?
our holding on is for our own selves and our own, it's not any benefit to that person, really.
That's true. That's true. I see another chat thing.
Yes, it says, I was told for myself where I have asthma that if I didn't want oxygen, that it might save me in the moment. But if I say I don't want it, I wouldn't be given that opportunity.
Okay, I need to understand, what do you mean by you wouldn't be given that opportunity? And again, please hear that question coming from someone who works with people who are dying. Okay, so you may refuse oxygen at first, absolutely. If you're one who feels like, no, I don't want the oxygen now, you'll always be offered it though. Whomever is your case manager, whomever is your medical people that are coming in to take care of you, they will constantly ask, are you ready for your oxygen now? Would you like oxygen now?
Mhm.
So unless, so I don't understand why you wouldn't be given the opportunity. I'm confused there.
She says on a MOLST form that, or a DNR, that it would you put on there that you don't want oxygen given, and then they wouldn't?
Okay,
Perhaps.
you could put anything you'd like on the MOLST form. What's important about the MOLST form is that you also let your doctor know why you're making some of those choices. That's part of your primary physician doctor.
Mhm.
That's part of why you have the MOLST form. They will keep a copy in their file, and then if you become a hospice patient and you want to be at home to receive services, and that's where you want to die, then the MOLST form will also come home with you. We need to have a copy of that at home. However, I was told that by an ambulance administrator. Okay, well,
But if
that might be the case if you're not on home services, if you're not on hospice. Okay, so if you were at home and you had an asthma attack and you were going, you call 911 or somebody calls 911, and on your MOLST form you said, no, I don't want oxygen, then yes, they would have to go by whatever the MOLST form says.
Mm.
Okay, but understand that's not having care coming into your home to care for you.
Right.
When you are in the hospital, primaries have no word. It is the hospitals that make that decision. Okay, right. So if you're saying, and you're correct, Joan, okay, you're correct. And if you're saying that you don't want oxygen because you don't want to be resuscitated, so instead of saying not being resuscitated, I don't want any oxygen, then yes, the hospitalist would make that decision, not even a question about that. And the problem there is unless you're very clear on your MOLST form, so maybe you'll say, well, I don't want oxygen if I'm not having too much trouble breathing, but if it gets to a point that I'm not breathing well and I need oxygen, I would like it. You need to be very specific. And that especially if you're admitted into the hospital. Because if you begin to have problems breathing in the hospital, and they deem that, well, giving you oxygen is going to save your life,
Yep.
they may just go ahead and give you oxygen.
Yep.
Even though on the MOLST form, you said no oxygen. So again, it's being clear. My question to you, Joan, would be, and as the bereavement care provider, because bereavement is also part of the dying process, not just when you die for your family, it's also for you. because there's going to be much grief you're going to deal with. And here, one of the questions that I would ask you, Joan, is why don't you want oxygen? You have asthma. I'm imagining that you might have had some experiences that the asthma can be real bad. So what is your, and you don't have to answer that question now. I'd like you to think about it though. Why would you not want oxygen? Because that's an important piece. People with asthma usually can be treated well with oxygen. So that might be what you want to look at. Okay. When you're in the hospital, primaries have, okay, yeah. If it was for some other reason, perhaps an accident, for example. Okay, so there again, the question that I would have for you is, Joan, are you worried that you're going to need oxygen and they're not going to give it to you? And that's something that you have to wrestle with. That's something you have to wrangle with. I've not come across, and I'll share this, I've not come across anyone who has needed oxygen for an ailment that they have and has not received it. I have had people who've said, look, I don't want to be artificially alive. I don't want to be, resuscitated if there's no chance for me to live in a functional way. So I think that may need to be looked at a little bit, because you're right. An illness, an accident, going to the hospital unexpected, those are all situations where, again, we need to determine, how do we want to be cared for? How do we want to have medical treatment? What kind? Those are important questions. How do I want to be taken care of? Okay, those are important questions. Cheryl.
Isn't oxygen considered a care and comfort measure?
Yes.
So.
See, but again, you're right, but I can only speak from a hospice point of view or a home care point of view. That yes, you can refuse oxygen as much as you want, and your case manager is going to keep asking if she feels you could benefit or need it. In a hospital setting, if you're in an accident, well, those are two different situations.
Yeah.
So in that regard,
to save lives at that point.
Yes, and please understand, you cannot place any blame or grudge against your ambulance, your emergency, response people, because that's what they're trained to do.
Yeah.
Okay, period.
Yeah.
By law, again, in the state of Massachusetts, don't know about the other states, they come to someone and someone needs to be resuscitated. If you do not have a do not resuscitate, they're going to resuscitate you, period, because that's what they have to do. Otherwise, their license is at risk.
And
so
once they start, they can't stop until.
Right. Thank you, Cheryl. That's true. So please, when you're thinking about how do I want to be cared for? I know I focused on the dying part, but you know what? We're dying. Every day we live, we're dying. That's not a bad thing. That means we're living one more day until whenever our time comes. But it is important to understand, how do I want to proceed? How do I want to live my life until I get sick and until I die?
Right.
How do I want to be taken care of? You don't have to be dying to determine how you want to be cared for. You do not have to be dying to determine that you want a MOLTS form, but you want it very clear and explained on that MOLTS form what it is you want. You don't have to be dying to make clear how you want to be cared for, treated, or medically taken care of. Okay? You don't. You can do that now. I've urged my adult children to do this. Okay, that's how important I believe it is, because we do never know what's going to happen. Every day we wake up, I come from a culture where we're grateful because there was a time we weren't sure we were going to wake up in the morning. We didn't take it for granted. In the West, everybody's gonna, oh, the sun's gonna come out tomorrow. Yeah, but maybe not for me. I don't know what's gonna happen overnight. I don't know what's gonna happen once I walk out my door. I don't know. So those things are important to start thinking about now, okay? And even younger, as far as I'm concerned. And they'll change as you age. They'll change. So many decisions are made in the moment. I don't trust the doctors that don't know the patient's history. You know, and that's a very vital point. That is such a vital point. It's why I always say, find a primary care physician. Hopefully you already have one that you trust and that you can have conversation with, because that is very important. And you're right. Doctors just don't know. I know there's these beautiful clinics you can walk into and get treatment, and sometimes that's great. Now I can attest to that. I got bad poison ivy, needed it addressed right away, went to the clinic, they took care of it. However, I made sure they sent all of those records to my primary doctor, so that was in my record with my primary doctor. But yes, it's your primary doctor that's really going to be able to understand what it is you want and how you want things to go, how you want to be cared for. Going into the hospital, one of the things I would suggest, carry a healthcare proxy. Hopefully you have one. If not, please do that. Carry your power of attorney and carry a copy of your MOLTS form or your do not resuscitate form. I'm telling you what I carry. So should I go into the hospital? When they start going through my stuff, if my healthcare proxy can't get there, they're going to see all this. So they're going to know exactly, even though I'm a stranger to them, they're going to know exactly what I'm looking for and how I want to be taken care of. And that's what we need to do now. That's exactly what we need to do. We can't wait and allow our adult children to handle it. It's not fair to them. And they're going to be making emotions from, they're going to be making decisions from emotions, because they're watching their parents suffer. So make those decisions for yourself now. You decide how you want to be taken care of. Okay? All right, something else popped up. That's true. And that is true. Unfortunately, when you go to the hospital, what they're doing, because they have hospital lists, the hospital doctors, there is a lot that they actually kind of make the call. So you may want to think real hard about going to the hospital, unless it's a real emergency. I was told my husband wouldn't about standard, and he had 8-11 sheet and was still pushing standard. He was at, yeah, you know, again, all you can do is make it absolutely clear, and the hospitalist has to abide by a MOLTS form, a DNR, the healthcare proxy, and power of attorney. They have to. That by law, they need to do. There's no getting around that. So it's our responsibility. It's each of us, our responsibility to have what we need on hand. Okay, I'd like to go back to the 5 wishes just so that I can get through those, if that's okay with everybody. All right, the 3rd wish is, oh, how comfortable do I want to be? We actually talked about this a little bit. That's important. You need to share with your family, with your healthcare proxy. How comfortable do you want to be? And that includes not only your meds, but even how comfortable you want to be. Do you want to sit in a chair? Do you want to be in the recliner? Do you want to be in a hospital bed? Do you want to be able to get up and down when you have the strength to get up and down? That's important. So, you know, those are things you also want to think about. Those are things you know, think about your life now. And then put in there that, okay, you're getting older, you're aging, and you may come to a point that you're dying and you want to be at home. How do you want that to happen? How do you want to be comfortable? Maybe you want to stay in your old recliner and that's where you're going to sleep. Okay, That's fine, but you got to tell somebody that. All right. Maybe you do want the hospital bed. You like the thought of something going up and down for you. Okay, fine. You got to tell somebody that. I tend to use humor when I'm talking about this because it can be a bit overwhelming, to say the least. All right. How do I want people to treat me? I would say just like a king or a queen. What the heck? Why not? But we're also talking about how do you really want to be treated? Do you want people to have conversations in front of you? Do you want people to include you on decisions that are going to be made for your care, for your medicine, for your well-being? Do you want to be treated with kindness, or do you want someone to be firm? You know, these are the things again. You know, do you want someone to offer a little human, or do you want someone to always be serious? You know, these are important questions that you can ask yourself as to how you want people to treat you. All right. And last but not least, what I want my loved ones to know. Okay. We tend to forget about that. And the reason we tend to forget about that is because we don't want to upset them. We don't want to upset ourselves. But you know what? If you don't tell them the family secrets, where the family jewels are, and where that secret recipe of yours is, they're never going to know. And I'm joking. If you don't tell them about your life, if you don't tell them about how they came into this world and what that meant to you, if you don't tell them about the saddest day in your life or the most joyful day in your life, the most embarrassing day in your life, the most proudful day of your life, if you don't tell them, they're not going to know. You want them to carry on your tradition of woodworking, wood burning, painting, cooking, cleaning. What else is there? Golfing, tennis. You understand where I'm going with this. Then tell them. If you're able, teach them before you're not able to teach them. You want to tell them about cars? Talk to them about cars. Home repairs? Talk to them about home. About becoming old, aging, becoming an elder, a grandparent. Tell them, please tell them. And then tell them the hard stuff. I've used all the money. Sorry, you're getting nothing. Or, you know what? There's something in the closet that you can sell and it'll bring you a nice little nest egg. Again, I'm joking a little bit, but what I'm also trying to do is truly get you all to understand that, yes, there's a lot to think about. There are a lot of decisions. I'd be happy to do this again. I would appreciate that you come with questions so that this way we could answer the questions or address them. But, you know, this is it. Now's the time. Now is the time to plan for what we want. All right. Any questions? Anything else, Vicki, that you can think of that I could touch upon, offer?
Is there someone who can help you fill out these forms? Is that
Yes.
something the doctor or?
Okay, one of the things that you can do is one, it would be good to bring the form home. They will allow that. Bring the form home so that you can actually discuss the form with your family. Okay. If you feel that you need some clarity, then a social worker would really be able to help with that.
Okay.
And normally that's, you can usually, most social workers with hospice are willing to help in any way with anybody. So, you know, that can be finagled. You may even know a social worker. Elder services. Elder services can also be very instrumental in helping you to have someone help with all these forms that are to be filled out. Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
so
Thank you.
take advantage of that. And those services, my understanding from Elder Services, are free. You
Mhm.
just need to make an appointment.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay,
I have a question.
sure.
Would you recommend not having a adult child as your healthcare proxy person, since they would be coming from a place of emotion?
Okay. Well, hopefully, Emma, thank you for the question. I greatly appreciate it. It's a good question. Hopefully, what you're doing is you're talking with them beforehand. So in that regards, they're getting their emotion out. If you were to approach any one of your adult children and say, hey, I'm thinking about putting some things in place so that, I'm going to be taken care of, and you know how I want to be taken care of. And I'd like you to be my healthcare proxy. That's going to trigger emotion. So they're going to get it out. They're going to say, oh, Ma, I don't want you thinking like that. What's the matter with you? You're fine. Nothing's wrong, which is great. Okay, absolutely, that's great. But the other side to it is you're giving them the opportunity to think about, oh, my father's getting older. And I don't know. Yeah, I guess if they need to be taken care of, how am I going to do that? I don't know what they want. I don't understand. So what I would say is, as long as you trust the adult child to make decisions that are good for you, and again, you're having a conversation before. It's not at the last moment. It's not all, oh my God, my parent is going on hospice. Now what the heck do I do? Because now I need to be the healthcare proxy. That's when it can be more emotional for them than it can be rational. Talk to them before. Get a health proxy. Ask for a health proxy now. Have that conversation now so that you can actually go back and forth in talking about what you want, how you want, and help them. Your adult children deal with your aging, and when your time comes, you're dying.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Cheryl?
Also, as a daughter, I'm the older of two girls, and my mother also had cancer, and so my sister would forever say, oh, mommy should have done this, or mommy should have done that. But mummies know which child will be able to carry out their wishes, handle the stress of treatments and all of those things. And so when my mother was in that position and she chose to come and live with myself and my husband, she knew she knew why she did what she did, because your children, and who can handle what and who will carry out your wishes. You know that as a parent, even though sometimes it's probably hard to think that the one that you would have want to have done it won't be able to handle it for whatever reasons, but you as a parent will figure that out.
No, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you. That's true. That's very true. But it's also a great opportunity to have those conversations with your adult children or grandchildren. I mean,
right.
These are such important, and they're precious. These conversations are precious.
Right.
They will be remembered for always. And no, they're not going to be easy.
No.
Absolutely not. I mean, but what can be shared during that time would be amazing. So please, 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 don't hesitate to have the conversation with your adult children, or again, grandchildren, or even good friends or spouse. Let's not forget our spouses or our significant others or our mates, because they get forgotten a lot as well. And yeah, it's important that these conversations happen now. Any other questions?
Someone asked if the, said I'm a disabled vet, is the MOLST form recognized by the VA?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the wonderful part of the VA, most VAs also offer hospice services. So what that means is when the time comes that a veteran is dying, there are additional services that can actually come into play for that veteran. But yes, they do recognize the MOLST form, not even a question.
Okay, and Robin suggested that you write your obituary ahead of time, or at least make notes, even have a family member help.
That is wonderful. And Robin, thank you, because that is something I usually do recommend. It's like, you know what do you want said about you? And make sure you share that, because that is an important piece. And sometimes family members have a hard time coming up with it, because again, they've lost you, you've died, they loved you. Guess what? They're having a hard time, believe it or not. They're having a hard time.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Joan says she made her own funeral arrangements. They have the obituary and bookmark choices already.
Wow.
Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. So if there are no other questions, I would like to make a plug. And that plug is, some of you have shared that you have lost a loved one and you may be grieving. You are more than welcomed to get in touch with Nashoba Hospice and let them know. And if you indeed need, just some grief support, and we're not talking about anything major, but a pair of ears to listen, a pair of ears and a human to acknowledge what you've gone through, or even just suggestions on how to deal and to cope with things, please do so. I will warn you, you will get stuck with me. But I promise you, I can offer some support that might be helpful. So I thank you for allowing me, Vicki, thank you
Oh,
for allowing me to share.
thank you for bringing all your wisdom to us tonight. Really appreciate it.
It really,
Thank you.
for me, it's a pleasure, because it's important information that we don't learn it in school. We don't learn
Hard
it in our
stuff.
society,
Mhm.
So,
It's
and yet
true.
we need it. This is something we need. So
Hard
look,
stuff.
everyone, happy living until your time comes that you're not getting out of here alive. But until then, I hope your life is full, that it is joyful, and that you know love of no other kind than from your loved ones.
Oh,
So,
thank you,
yes,
Thank
Lucia.
you. Same
Thank
to you.
thank you.
All right, folks, please take a moment to answer the 2 quick questions that I've just put up on the page. Very simple, yes or no. Also, look for our next program in the On the Go with Healthy Senior Living Grant, Embrace Your Bonus Years. And that's on Tuesday, May 25th at 7 p.m. And be sure to check our website for all kinds of programs on all kinds of things, or pick up a paper calendar next time you're in the library. And right now for Arbor Day, if we still have some left, we're giving away trees. So if you haven't been in, come on by tomorrow or Saturday and see if there's any left. Thank you all so much for coming this evening. Everyone have a good night.
You as well.
You
Thank you.
too.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
There we go. Great. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.